What's going on, guys? So today we're going to be testing out some beef. We're going to see if the new Zone OS is prime rib or a mistake. So I'm here at probably one of my favorite courses in Kentucky. It's Mead Olin Park in Brandenburg. It's just one of those courses that's always been dear to my heart. It was probably my first travel course that I actually went to. So today we're gonna be testing out the Zone OS up against probably a Slammer and some other similar discs of similar stabilities and see how it compares. Let's get into it. I always warm up from this pavilion and kind of throw a few shots anyway, straight out of the car. So I'm gonna do that here and try to throw the Zone OS just flat and see kind of what happens. It's not too bad, pretty beefy. So it went pretty much as expected. It's pretty overstable, even for a Zone. It's got some real dump to it, like a truck. So I'm gonna try my regular Zone and see kind of how it compares. And then I've also got a breaker from DGA that I really love throwing for kind of a slow sweeping Hyzer up shots. So let's try this Zone, regular Zone. Man, that was a little fluffed. So now I'm gonna try the breaker. Breaker's in the basket. Ooh. The breaker actually matches my style of throwing a lot better, I think, than a Zone OS. Zones and Zone OS, both of those discs are gonna be more of a headwind disc for me, or like a utility style shot. So I'm gonna be throwing like a low skip shot, something where I can't really get the disc in the air, but I still wanna kind of get up and around stuff. This is where my drive landed off of hole 1, 120 feet uphill to the pin now. So I'm gonna, this is not the shot. So I've got a flippy Zone that I've been throwing for a while. It's kind of beat in pretty good. Flips up, it's not necessarily beef. And then I've got this Zone OS that I just got from Great Lakes Disc. And so far it's been pretty beefy. I'm gonna try to flex this on a little Hyzer and get it to just go straight. Like I said, this is not the shot, but showing you guys how you can kind of work the disc. Yeah, she beefy. I put that on a pretty good Hyzer and it just didn't care. So now I'm gonna throw my regular Zone. I'll probably throw a Luna or something like that here, or even a Buzz SS. So we'll see how this works out. Gonna be throwing this one for the disc. So I'm gonna be throwing this flat and maybe a little touch of Hyzer. Try to go in this top right gap up here. Just like that. Like I said, neither one of those are really the shot here. I'm just giving you guys a demonstration on how you can kind of work the Zone OS versus maybe a normal Zone that probably is in your bag. Throwing this so far, it's pretty beefy. It's living up to its name. This is 312 feet. I'm gonna give it an all-out rip this time, which doesn't mean much coming from me because I only throw probably about 350, 400 on a good day, which is not today. I'm gonna give it a full rip on this hole, see where it lands. The basket's pretty much dead straight, but it's wide open. So I'm gonna throw off to the right, kind of hard as I can. I'm expecting maybe 180 feet. We'll see. Yeah, like full on, probably 350 feet worth of power on that. I feel like at least 320 and nothing. It just went straight to the ground. So this shot is kind of what I feel like a Zone OS would be made for. It's kind of a spike Hyzer. I don't throw a forehand. The obvious route is over here with a little forehand shot, but I'm gonna try to sneak through this tree to the right and throw a big spike Hyzer with this Zone OS. See if I can't like just spike into the basket. This is a little bit shorter of a hole. It's about 250. So I'm gonna throw my new Zone OS and my kind of flippy zone that I've been throwing for a while. So far during this test, this has been nothing but beef. It's just a different style of disc. It's very useful, it's just knowing when to use it. So none of these shots are really like zone shots. Still gonna throw this on a little bit of Annie. Yeah, a lot of Annie. Almost roller angle-esque, to see if I can't get it to just go straight and park the basket. Oh, it's like a Slim Jim. That was like straight into a roller angle and it just didn't care. I threw it pretty much like I would be throwing a roller and it just flexed out. Here's my zone that I've been throwing. It's still got a little beef to it. Zone OS is definitely probably 2 or 3 notches more stable than a regular zone. That's a flippier zone, and I threw it kind of on a touch of a Hyzer, expecting it to flip up to flat, so I should have probably threw it flat. All right, so this hole I'm gonna try to throw in between these 2 trees. Yeah, I mean, that's nowhere near the basket, but it's not gonna be on this shot. I'm just showing you guys kind of how you could shape a shot with this. So I threw it to the right, wanting it to cut in front of this tree here, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. Very reliable fade on that disc. I can throw it flat or even a little Annie, and it's definitely bailing out to the left. So if you're ever playing in a hurricane or like tornado situation, that's gonna be a good go-to disc for you because it's gonna fight the wind regardless. So this shot would be more of a Zone OS shot. I've got kind of a low ceiling under this tree. I'm gonna throw it flat and let it skip up to the basket. This is probably 80, 90 feet. Exactly what I would use the Zone OS for. Kind of a low streamlined shot that you want to kind of get a little bit of skip on. So this is another pretty good like Zone OS shot. I'm gonna probably throw this on a little bit of Annie and see if I can't get it to just skip straight. Got a pretty low ceiling, so you know the zone's not gonna go high, it's gonna stay low. I should be able to rip on this pretty hard and not worry about it going anywhere. Yeah, that's not too bad. So now I've got a little more wide open hole. What I'm gonna be doing is throwing a spike Hyzer with 3 different discs. I have a Zone OS, which we've already pretty much found out it's pretty beefy. I have a slammer, which I think feels very similar to Zone OS as far as the shape of the rim, how deep this is. And then we have a regular zone, which is my flippy zone. So I'm gonna throw all 3 of these at that basket. It's probably 180 feet. I'm gonna try to spike them in to the right of that tree. Not too bad. I wanted that to be a little tighter. Give the slammer, try to do the same treatment. Slammer felt a little more stable, I think. I didn't really get a good rip on it though. And then probably what I would use for this shot, my flippy zone. So that's a few holes with the Zone OS. I'm gonna break it down into 3 categories and give you my rating kind of 1 out of 10. First category is this a beginner friendly disc? And I'm gonna have to say no. The overstability on this disc is pretty insane, and a beginner's just not gonna get very much flight out of it. A beginner would be more suited to try a zone if they're looking for an overstable disc, or even a breaker from DGA is one of my personal favorites. Category number 2, how overstable is it? This is bringing the beef. This is definitely a super overstable disc. If you throw a lot of thumbers, a lot of tomahawks, a lot of grenade type shots, this would be a great disc for that. It'd be a good disc for a headwind and a faster arm speed. I have thrown some discs that are more overstable than this, but as far as overstability goes, this is really gonna do the job. It's gonna do what you want an overstable disc to do, and that's cut through the wind, get a little bit of, right to left skip. It's great for the spike Hyzer shots. So if you got a low ceiling and you wanna make sure that you're not gonna be drifting up into that ceiling, it's really great for that because you can throw this as hard as you want to on a little anti-flex and it'll go under whatever you're throwing and then skip hard to the left. Category number 3, are you gonna use this disc every day? Is it gonna be an everyday disc that you're just gonna go to for shot after shot? Probably not. To me, it's gonna be a disc that you're gonna use maybe 2 to 3 times per round to get underneath low ceiling, to get up and over a shorter bush or taller trees. It's gonna be a utility disc that your bigger arms are gonna be using to throw over top of things, little skip shots. I like to even throw thumber rollers with stuff like this because a stable disc on a thumber roller tends to go primarily straight. So it's gonna be up to the player, but your average player is probably not gonna use this unless it's super windy, or they're playing a course that has a lot of low-hanging branches, things where you really want the disc to go under stuff and kind of get a little bit of that forward right to left skip, right to left movement. With that being said, what's my rating out of 1 out of 10 on it? For my personal skill level and arm speed, I'm kind of a slower, more finesse style thrower. I don't really throw that hard. I would probably give this about a 6 because I would use it as a utility disc and be able to throw kind of up and over some things, maybe even be able to putt with it in a headwind if you're playing in a hurricane, 500 some mile an hour winds, something crazy. You can use it for headwind putts, headwind shots, stuff like that. I just don't personally see it replacing my zone that I already have in my bag. My zone is kind of a flippier zone. I can throw it backhand and get it to flip up and go straight and do a lot of the things that I wanted this to do. And this is just a overstable version of that. So if I've got a lower shot that I'm trying to get under a branch, under a tree, some kind of trick shots that I'm gonna be throwing, I would pull this out and throw. With that being said, is it gonna make the bag? Is it gonna stay in my bag? On a windy day, more than likely, yeah. I'll be putting this in, I'll be putting an Avalanche in from DGA because it's just super overstable. On your casual days where the wind is 20 miles per hour or less, I probably won't have this in the bag because I can do everything that this disc does for my arm speed with a regular zone and a breaker. I'm gonna be throwing more accurate shots with those 2 discs because I can throw them slower. But if you're looking for a nice trick shot style disc, something where you've got a lot of headwind, if you're a far thrower, you throw 500 feet and you have, Simon Lizotte style power, Paul McBeth style power, then this probably be a good disc for you because you can rip on this and it's only gonna go probably 200 feet. Hopefully you guys found this review informative and helpful. If you're enjoying the content, be sure to click that subscribe button. Thanks guys.